Hi there, I'm Dr. Yen, and in today's version of That's Why, I'm going to be sharing ideas on how you can increase collaboration in your classroom and in distance learning. So thanks for joining me. So today I have opted for more high technology by using my handy dandy clipboard to share with you ideas about collaboration. In the forefront of a lot of instructors' minds right now is, if we don't have our students in the classroom, then how can we continue to have kids do group work and collaboration at a distance? So we're going to talk about collaboration, and the first thing I want you to think about is what collaboration is really about. If we originally think about collaboration in the classroom, we normally envision a group of students sitting together, talking and discussing while they're co-creating some sort of thing, right? But in reality, collaboration can be broken down into a series of skills. And if we focus then on the development of these skills in the classroom and through distance learning, we've got collaboration without that typical traditional idea of I've got to have my students in a classroom, in a group together as they're talking. Because there's many different ways to collaborate, right? So think of collaboration as being a skills-based kind of tool that students actually have to be taught. And those skills can be broken down into communication, for one. Included in those skills for communication are two things that we have to consider. Netiquette, how we act in the classroom or on the web, how we treat ourselves, how we're gentle with ourselves, how we communicate respectfully without bullying or flaming, right? And then the other is constructive feedback. Oftentimes, if we don't provide students with guidelines on how to provide constructive feedback, a lot of these collaborative sessions actually become critique fests where we're just trying to tear people down, right? So it's important when we're teaching collaboration that we focus on what does it mean by providing constructive feedback, right? The idea behind constructive feedback is that we're building students up. We're making things better. So a student's feedback to another student should be something that they can do to make that work better, right? That's what collaboration is really about. So communication, one skill. The other skill is synthesis, okay? And I should say synthesis is an overarching thing that we do for collaboration, but there's two smaller skills that are involved in that. The first is the ability to evaluation. Think about when you get constructive feedback, you don't necessarily take all of it. What you do is you evaluate how useful that feedback is, whether or not it is going to help improve whatever work you're doing. And then you have to think about, how am I synthesizing that information into creating a better product, right? So evaluation is definitely in there. How do I weigh out the feedback that I have, look at the quality of the work, and improve that quality of work, right? So that's one. And then the second thing that you have to break down is the creating aspect. Synthesis is about taking all of that feedback together, all that information, your data, your discussions, your actual work itself, right? The evaluation of it, and then synthesizing it to create something else. Creating and communicating are two very key 21st century skills. So collaboration is another 21st century skill, can be broken down into two others. In other words, when you're showing students and giving them opportunities to collaborate in online and offline settings, you're preparing them for those 21st century skills and for a future career. So what are the steps behind collaboration? it's not just having people sit together in a group and talk, right? We all know, we've all been there where we sit together in a group and nothing comes out of it. There's absolutely, nothing really productive about it, or only one person ends up doing all the work, right? So how do we become productive? We need to break collaboration down into 2 tasks. The first is showing the work, showing what it is that you want to improve. And then the other, actually I should say 3, right? I lied. 3 things. Give and get feedback. And then synthesize, provide opportunities to synthesize, and then rinse and repeat as often as possible. So collaboration, broken down into these 3 things, means it can happen in the classroom or outside of the classroom. It can happen simultaneously or asynchronously, right? But as long as you've got a place where you can show your work to people to see, and then you have a place where people can give you feedback and you can get that feedback. And then you have a place to be able to take these 2 things, synthesize them to create something new. Then this is really what collaboration is about. If we have just those 3 steps to worry about, you can do it anywhere. So I'm going to talk about some examples of synchronous ways and asynchronous ways that you can do this. Now this applies to kids in preschool all the way up to grad school, right? We can do these things, and it really depends on your class. It depends on the age of your students, the maturity of your students, and also what kinds of tools do you have available to you at the time. Synchronously, here are my 2 go-to things to do, synchronously and online. Google Doc, I love Google Doc. One thing that you can do if you have a Zoom meeting with your students is you can open a Google Doc and you can have your students add ideas to the Google Doc, highlight things, talk about points, so you can have almost like a group set of notes that people can draw from, right? The other thing is Zoom breakout rooms. So if you're using Zoom, I don't know if WebEx has the same thing. There are capabilities to have breakout rooms where people can meet in smaller groups, discuss, and whenever you do that, you always want to ask for a creation of something, a whiteboard, notes, something, right? A Google Doc, to show that people have talked about something, they've synthesized it, and they've created something as a result. Those 3 steps, by the way, don't have to be big steps. They can be baby steps, right? Like for instance, collaboration could be you show everybody an outline of your idea, and then you have people give you feedback on it, annotate it, take pictures of it, make comments on it, whatever. And then you have to take that again, and then your synthesis is building the next step. Right? It's taking those skills, taking that feedback, and then building the next thing based off of that feedback. That's all collaboration. Now, something that's kind of in between synchronous and asynchronous is what I call gallery walks. So, one of the teachers asked, what about social distancing? If we're in the classroom and they're 6 feet apart, it's going to get really loud as kids are yelling across the room. And that's perfectly fine. I think that's great because they're still talking about the project, right? But the other thing you can do that's a little bit more peaceful, but you can still be socially distanced, is gallery walks, right? You put everybody's work out, hand everybody like a Post-it note maybe, and then they walk around, or even a form for everyone. They walk around and they add comments, constructive feedback to the form that then that individual is able to get and synthesize into their work. Annotations are also great. You can check out, there's a number of new programs right now that will allow students to actually annotate directly onto whatever document, photograph, whatever it is that they need feedback on. So check those out. Your campus may already have something there for you, but annotations is also a way of collaboration, right? Asking questions and so on and so forth. One of my favorites are discussion boards. I love discussion boards. However, there's a right way to do discussion boards, and then there's a really, really wrong way to do discussion boards. Discussion boards are great if you have certain parameters in place. For one, it should count for part of the grade. So students will do anything for a point. So if the discussion board is simply, synthesize these 3 things and write something down, that's still a point. Maybe your discussion is show the work that you did, show a picture of it, show a video, tell me your idea, right? And then the other thing is limitations on what the feedback entails. Because if you have a lot of students, the problem with discussion boards is that they can blow up, right? For 2 reasons. One is, student decides to write an entire book on, giving feedback to somebody. That's not going to help you. So you limit it. You might say, okay, in 200 words or less, I want you to give feedback to somebody, or I want you to give feedback to 2 other people, right? It's usually better if you say give feedback to 2 people, because when you say give feedback to 2 people, then you're getting twice as much feedback. The other thing is making sure that the rules of netiquette are there. That's why you teach netiquette first. So when you give feedback, we're giving true feedback on how they can improve, right? We're not giving feedback to make them feel bad. Okay, so discussion boards, really, really great. I highly suggest them because it gives students, especially the ones that don't think on the fly and they don't talk, a moment to think about their answers, to consciously synthesize that and then type it out with deliberation, right? So discussion board's a really great thing. I'll probably do a video on them one of these days. All right, so an idea to teach the skills of collaboration, and this was not my idea, by the way. This idea was given to me. We were talking about it in a podcast with Trina Debery. She is a One Tired Teacher podcast. I love her work. She creates a lot of things for elementary teachers. She suggested what's called collaborate with colors. And I love this because you can teach even young kids about understanding what collaboration is about. And so the way we talked about it in her podcast is you have every student have one color and then they start, say, a drawing, and they just start it, the framework of it. And then what they do is they pass that on to another student, and that student puts their color and their work into it. And then it keeps going for however much, right? And then the original student gets it back. Collaboration comes from the discussion, not how good the picture is, right? But more about the process. For example, this is what Trina suggested to me. If you look and you see that there's one student and it's way too much green and there's not a lot of other colors, what does that say about collaboration, right? It means that not everybody's voices were represented, right? Really, really visual, tangible example there. And then you can ask questions like, okay, so what do we do for all those voices to show up, right? What does it look like? You can talk about how ideas get changed through collaboration. If you have an open project where you say to a student, draw anything, and then you tell the original student who drew it, draw an outline or whatever, what were you intending to do, to make, and they write that down, and then it goes through several rounds with other students and it comes back. It might be something completely different. That's sometimes good and that's sometimes bad. It depends on what the intention of the project was, right? And then you can talk about, okay, well, if we all wanted to start with a house and then it ended up looking like an elephant, how do we get everybody on the same page when it comes to collaboration? What do we need to do in addition to just handing people these different colors, right? But this is a great thing you can do at the very start of the year to get students to think about, like, what does good collaboration look like? How do we include everybody's voices, right? And why does it look better when you have all of these colors represented? So just a lot of rich discussion about the processes behind collaboration there. And then not only that, but say, for instance, every week you pass these papers on around the classroom to all the different colors. Your kids can't wait to get that drawing back, right? Because they're going to be excited to see what happened at the end. And then, like I said, you can try things. What does an open-ended collaboration look like when there's no rules, no preconceived idea of what it's going to be? And then how is it, what if there was an idea that was put there? Then what happens when everybody collaborates, right? Because both of those are very good. Like, oftentimes collaborations are for brainstorming. Other times collaborations are for, improving upon things. Either one is useful and it's great to have both. Okay, so my turn to ask you. So in the comments, I would love to hear, how do you collaborate? What are your ideas on collaborations for the fall? How are you doing them through distance learning? How are you doing them through socially distanced? What are you doing? I would love to hear, but not only that, your comments help inspire other people. So please share your ideas. Then, if you haven't done so already, you'll notice that I do these videos about once a week. Subscribe, okay? It's a really great channel, I think, because I talk a lot about distance learning, learning in general, motivation, engagement, and all that great stuff. So please go ahead and subscribe to my channel. You will get more of this goodness. You can click on the little bell, which means it will alert you every time a new video is out. And then the other thing is that we are starting at the beginning of August a 10-day challenge called Disaster Proof Your Teaching. There are 2 versions of it, one for elementary school and one for high school and higher education, because you know the demands are kind of different for both. In both of those challenges, it is about getting you ready for the fall. No matter if your class is going to be face-to-face and socially distanced, or if you're going to be fully online, or if you're going to have any combination in between. I am here to help you out with that. So, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye now.